please silence it. If you need to take a call, please step out in the hallway. Roll call, please.
Franz? Davis?
Here.
Metz?
Here.
Milliot?
Here.
Blum? Herman? Hudak?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All right, next up are minutes from May 13th, because we didn't have a meeting in June. Any comments, questions, concerns on May 13 minutes?
No. Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Davis?
Aye.
Metz?
Aye.
Milliot?
Aye.
Hudak?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving into new business. First up is the downtown redevelopment plan presentation. Ray, would you introduce?
Yes, so Mr. Lyons from our planning division, manager for the planning division, is here to present the downtown redevelopment plan that's being circulated amongst a number of stakeholder groups, city boards and commissions, and he'll get into a little bit of details on how the plan was brought forward, as well as going forward what the plan is. One of the biggest reasons we wanted to bring it to the Advisory Parks Board is obviously Opera House Square is a big part of the downtown, and there are some visions for what that could possibly be in the future. And so we just wanted to give you an opportunity to take a look at the plan, maybe focus a little bit more on the Opera House Square, and provide any input that you might have on the plan going forward. So Mark, take it away.
And thank you, Park Director. Again, my name is Mark Lyons. I'm the Planning Services Manager for the city. I do have a presentation for you tonight. If as we go through this you have questions, feel free to just ask. We don't have to wait till the end. There's a little bit of background to start this presentation because we wanted to set the stage for why this downtown visualization plan is going. And it really goes back to, recalling the industrial nature and character of the city of Oshkosh. We like to start with these images for two reasons. Bottom right, you see Pioneer Island. A lot of people don't realize Pioneer Island wasn't an island. It was actually just a peninsula that stuck out. It's actually where they cut ice and put it on rail cars.
Oh, wow.
At some point in time, it was dredged to become the island that we're familiar with today. But it was part of that industrial history that the city had. And just a couple other images that kind of showing, what the city used to look like with that highly industrialized riverfront. So the city has partaken in a lot of collaborative efforts when we do downtown and citywide planning in general, working with a lot of the public-private partnerships to bring plans and ultimately projects forward. We know revitalization takes the whole community. It's not just local government doing those things. So just some of the plans that have been done as a collaboration. And we're going to start in about 2000, which is kind of the precipice for the plan we did today. In 2000, the city, along with the Chamber, the Community Foundation, did the Downtown Action Plan. That was the first attempt at revisualizing what could downtown look like. Part of that 2000 Downtown Action Plan actually was like a brochure, a handout, a marketing element to show developers and the community what could downtown be revitalized, what could it look like with some reinvestment in our community. Fast forward a little bit, 2016, 2017, Imagine Oshkosh. So again, it was an advisory group made up of city stakeholders, and it was the first kind of attempt at a full-fledged plan looking at just the downtown area of the city. It took about 2 years to complete, and it really was looking at our center city, what were the assets and where could we go from there. Part of that plan included the Sawdust District. So in 2018 through 2020, the city took a specific area of the Imagine Oshkosh plan, and again, with an advisory group and stakeholders, did the Sawdust District, looking at that south side of the river. Fast forward now to 2024, and we wanted to again take another segment of that plan and focus further on it, look at that visualization element. So this plan was a partnership between the City of Oshkosh, the City of Oshkosh Community Foundation, Chamber, Go EDC, Discover Oshkosh, and the BID. all of those groups came together, funded doing this visualization plan. It was not just a city-initiated plan. This group came to the city. We all got together and decided this was something that was important for the city on a whole, and decided to move forward with it. Just some significant dates kind of in the history of the downtown area. Downtown redevelopment really started in the late 90s when a lot of the railroad tracks started to be removed from downtown, taking us out of that industrial situation and providing opportunities for redevelopment. 2000, we had the action plan. 2001, the Park Plaza Mall was renamed to City Center and that redevelopment began. 2002, Opera House Square was dedicated. 2004, the Leach Amphitheater. We like to throw in 2008, you know, we had the movie filmed. That was, a lot of people feel that was important. It was big for the city at that point in time. 2010, we had the 100 North Main Street building reconstructed. 2017, we did that Imagine Oshkosh. 2017, we also had the arena open. 2020, we had that Sawdust District Master Plan. Kind of now moving forward quite a bit. You know, 2022, we have a redevelopment beginning to take place on the river. That's when the T-Wall project began. Theta Care Freighter hospital planning started. And then now obviously in 2024 as we look at this redevelopment visualization. So we like to look back at the 2000 action plan, because that was kind of the inspiration for what this group wanted to do this time around. These are all things that were specifically called for in that 2000 action plan that ultimately got done. Our project the city can now be proud of. The Riverwalk, the 100 North Main redevelopment. The Leach Amphitheater was a great example of that public-private partnership. The city was able to acquire the property, but the private investors helped make that project then come forward. Mary and Pearl redevelopment area started in 1999 and we're nearly complete with just a couple of parcels left for redevelopment in that area. That plan called for the Parkway Jefferson Street project, which is finally moving forward this year with the corridor housing project and 2-shift daycare. Opera House Square began development in 2002, and then the former Morgan Door site was specifically called for in that plan as needing redevelopment. And as you know now in 2024 here, that project is under construction for the new hospital. So looking at some of the catalyst developments, again, we like to show kind of that history of downtown. You can see this is really looking at that Marion Road and Pearl area, where it was all manufacturing, all industrial. Now it's nearly all housing and commercial developments that have taken place. It's really starting to revitalize that downtown, bringing people back into the downtown. Opera House Square, you know, was a parking lot, and even before the parking lot there was another building on that location, and then the restaurant that was there versus what you see today with the green space and the sundial. Leach Amphitheater with the utilities being located on that site versus what we have today. And these are, again, all things that were in that 2000 action plan. The 100 North Main building redevelopment. And then again, this is just another image of kind of the downtown back when it was mainly an industrial site. Right along the riverfront with the merge development taking place kind of on the right side there in the bottom, you have the Brio building with the food co-op in it. Now you have Max and Corners directly around the river that's taking place. So that continued redevelopment of that industrial area. As you know, the Freighter hospital location with Theta Care, that all those buildings have been wiped out from the old Morgan Door, and now the new hospital is going in. Just some images of that hospital project. The Riverwalk, that was a big element in the 2000 action plan, was how do we revitalize our riverfront? And the primary concept at that time was this Riverwalk, which obviously, as the Parks Board knows, has been highly successful. Kind of we have showing there in the orange the sections that have been completed. The sections in yellow are still the areas we're hoping to complete. Just some images of what that Riverwalk is now like today. This is what I mentioned a little bit of the corridor project on North Main and Jefferson Street. It's a unique project coming to the city. It is a affordable housing project that includes both townhomes along the Jefferson Street side, apartment units, and a multi-story building along Main Street. But really something that makes this unique is that the first floor facing Main Street includes a 2-shift daycare, something the city doesn't currently have. Should be a great asset to the city. Some images of what that project looks like. So then getting to what we're doing now. So this is the 2024 revitalization visualization of showing what could be the next phase of redevelopment for the city. Kind of here's the scope of the area. Basically on the southeast you have the Leach. You go over to Jackson Street on the west, Main Street kind of running through the core. Goes as far north on the west as kind of City Hall, Church Avenue. On the east you have, northeast corner, you have the YMCA location, and then it does travel up a bit to Irving Street on the north. So the plan is broken down into 3 types of potential improvements that could take place. Catalyst redevelopments or large-scale redevelopment opportunities, smaller scale redevelopment sites that could be redeveloped, and then also landscaping or green space opportunities, taking some of those sites that maybe they're already developed, but it's a lot of hardscaping, and how could we improve them to make them more welcoming, inviting downtown. We wanted to show you just highlights of some of the things that are in the plan, and I know this one is, as Ray had mentioned, is particular interest to this Parks Board. In the Roger Brooks study that the Discover Oshkosh had done a few years back, it really talked about, is there an opportunity in the downtown for a programmed, larger park type amenity? So what this plan does is it looks at the area around Opera House Square and says, okay, is there an opportunity here that could be expanded into a larger programmable space? So on the left, that's what we have. I don't know if this mouse will work on here. This is Opera House Square. Then it takes out the bank building and some of the other buildings to 17 North Main to create a larger area. It would potentially close High Street going through it. A lot would go into doing something like this between acquisition, demolition, rerouting of truck routes. But we wanted to show, could you achieve that larger public space in the downtown? And there is opportunities to do so, but it's going to take a lot of both city investment and also private investment to make something like this happen. On the right side of the page, we just have some examples of similar type amenities that cities have done and some of the things they've included in those amenities that are found within the plan. Looking at another catalyst site, this is one that has gotten a little bit of controversy. This is the city center. What this plan talks about is there are multiple opportunities for how city center could be redeveloped or reinvested in. From option 1, which is just helping find ways to maintain and upkeep the existing building and enhance the building that's there today. Option 2, would there be an opportunity to remove portions of the building if they're underutilized and then redevelop around other pieces? And then option 3, which is shown in the image right, is could you remove the entire building and fully redevelop that site? Now, being a private site, this is something that we're just trying to show examples. The group wanted to show there's a wide range of things of how the site can be successful. The existing site as it sits today can be successful. Full redevelopment could be successful. So we just wanted to set that stage that there's a lot of different ways redevelopment opportunities can happen. Finally, the third category is landscaping improvements. This is 2 examples, the 300 Main and the 600 Main, 2 hard parking lot type environments, where this just shows you could revitalize some of those sites through just green spacing, landscape improvements, again, trying to make them more welcoming as part of the downtown. Other examples of some redevelopment sites, on the left we have a small gathering space. Right now there's a city parking lot there that is only a handful of stalls. The group wanted to show if there was an opportunity for a small scale gathering space with green tape improvements. Maybe it's benches that could be done. And this one, the benefit of this location, if it's something that would end up being pursued, it's already city owned, so you wouldn't be having to do acquisition. But just showing that you can make small improvements as well to make the downtown more welcoming. On the right side of the page is Town Motel. Something that's been discussed for a long time in this community is, what would redevelopment of that entire block look like? So on the image on the right shows, the RDA has already acquired some of the properties in between Town Motel and some of the other buildings, and it just shows what redevelopment there could look like, including maintaining some of the building and businesses that are there. So just trying to set the stage that there's different ways redevelopment can happen. So talk a little about what's going on right now. So we are doing these partner presentations. They started in June. We're obviously now into July here. There was a stakeholder group of business owners in the downtown and community members that were part of these recommendations in the planning process. The plan here is in late June or late July, and it may end up in August now, is to go back to that same stakeholder group and show them this same presentation and get their feedback. You know, did the plan kind of meet their expectations as they were helping through the process? And then establishing what are some short-term and long-term goals. Are there elements of this plan that the community thinks should be further investigated in the short term and the long term? And then looking at what are the opportunities for different groups to partner in trying to bring something like this fruition. Say example, the Opera House Square expansion. Everybody wants that to happen. Who are all the partners that are going to have to come in and get involved in a project like that to make that type of large-scale redevelopment happen? And then I want to end it on a high note. So 2 projects happening in the downtown that are already going on to show investment in our downtown. On the left, we have the Williams Water Gazebo project. If you've seen, that is currently under construction. Just beginning portions of it should be completed here late summer, early fall. And then Travis will be helping us landscape it. And then the alley activation project by the 400 West parking lot, where all those beautiful murals were installed last year, and there's further evaluation going on of other things that can take place in that alley to activate. That's my presentation. Questions? Ray, you got anything to add?
No, I think curious what the board has to say, especially about the Opera House Square. I think as Mark said, this is something that has been a focal point for probably the last year and a half, 2 years, since the study was done by Discover Oshkosh and Roger Brooks, and trying to enhance the downtown area, being a little more active and allowing more activities to be run, whether it's the bid or other partners down there. So,
I mean, you just look at Neenah, for example, they're downtown. I work over in that area, just seeing everything they've done, and the ice skating, everything like that is a huge attractor for people out of town, in town, kids, families. So I think anything like that we can do downtown is going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice plan. Everything that's there right now is just kind of parking lot and, I don't want to say junky buildings, but parking lot and buildings that need some work to be done on them. So a big area like that would be nice. It's also very close to the, the clock tower park too. It's just kind of kitty corner there. So, but I'll have to admit, on my phone when I was trying to look it all up, it keeps disappearing whenever I enlarge it to read what the stuff is. So I didn't get a full look at what was all planned to be, or the ideas of what was going to go into that park.
I could read through some of the bullet points on the left-hand side. Number 1, towards the top of the screen, is a amphitheater for concerts and events near the existing sundial. Number 2 is a fountain and or a splash pad area. Number 3, canopy tree-lined paths surrounded by open lawn areas. Number 4, they're calling a flex surface for winter ice skating and summer, whether it's, I've seen these where you can have a splash pad all the way along that ribbon and then turn it into a rink in the winter, so something multi-seasonally. Number 5, outdoor venue space for on-premise rentals, could support a local cafe. So 5's right along Main Street there. 6, relocate the Bull Run statue that's currently on the site. 7, enhance street design along Market Street, ideal location for temporary food truck parking during special events or public gatherings. And then 8 is strengthen the connection to existing property to the south. It's a primary access point to the Riverwalk. So
the Bull Run statue, is that the soldier guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many acres is that? Do we know?
I can tell you, hopefully.
Off the top of my head, I
Existing?
don't recall. You're talking the total acreage,
Yep.
if it was redevelopment.
Yep.
I wanna say it was close to 2, but I don't recall the exact number.
Okay.
A lot of it would depend on what you could do with some of the right-of-ways.
Right.
Currently, Opera House Square is just over an acre.
Yeah, so it's probably closer to 3 maybe total.
Okay. And then parking,
Would have to be evaluated as kind of part of the project.
okay,
That's the thing with these visualization plans, they're really a marketing pretty picture kind of exercise of,
Yep.
of trying to generate interest in what could happen. And then a lot more research and in-depth decisions have to go into to actually pulling something off.
and reading through the plans, there were parking, you know, some parking that you had built in there, not for this, but all around
Yep.
the downtown area, doing some extra parking, so.
The building on the corner of Main and High isn't any kind of historical building, right? Like,
So the tattoo on the north
Yeah, the
side of that
tattoo
block
one.
is.
okay,
So that is definitely a concern and consideration if this location, if this is just an example of one area of the city, the downtown could be done. We could evaluate other areas as well. This was just one that jumped out because there was already an amenity there to build off of. But historic, considerations, I thought that will have to go into account when something would happen.
I also like the idea of the town motel, doing something on that site.
yeah, what was the town motel one that you?
Yeah, so this just shows there's a potential for redevelopment of that entire area. Basically, the only things remaining are the gas station and this building, which is just recently renovated. And you could do a number of mixed-use commercial residential style buildings on the remainder of that block. Like I said, the redevelopment authority of the city has picked up a couple of the houses that were in here. They're not mainly the green space you see here. For something of this scale, you'd have to kind of continue to do that acquisition as well as the town motel property.
Mark, can you go to your first slide of the overall site?
That one.
Yeah, I think this is one I wanted to talk a little bit about too, because we've had some discussions about near the downtown YMCA and some potential. Is there a way to add a little more green space near or adjacent to Rowe Park, and maybe whether it's something in partnership with the YMCA or just getting additional green space down there for some other potential amenities? And this kind of touches on that. It doesn't specifically, give a location. It's a general idea of some locations that might be looked at.
Yeah.
But it would
Early
definitely
in-
give us a little more green space than downtown.
Early in this process, we sat down with the YMCA to talk about what their long-term plans were for that area. And they had mentioned, a little more green space, outdoor space, whether it was city program, YMCA program, could be a benefit to that area in general, having some more green space instead of maybe some of the parking lots and homes that are there today.
And Mark and his team hear from us all the time when they come up with these pretty pictures that somebody ultimately has to maintain this. And so those are all things that we as a department, the Parks Board, and the council, and obviously Mark and his team need to consider as we start to develop some of these sites. When you look at activating some of these alley areas or getting rid of parking and putting more landscaping, that pretty much becomes a parks-related maintenance item. So it's something that we need to make sure is kept out front as well. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's not only the capital expense, but the long-term expenses that go with these type of potential improvements.
Is there a list of all the buildings in the surrounding area that are historical?
Yeah, we do have some historic districts. That information we have at planning, what's
Okay.
all on the historic, whether it's in the district, on the national registry, the local registry,
Yeah.
there's a number of different elements that go into that. We have a number of historic districts in the city, downtown
I
being
assumed
one of
as
them.
much, yeah. I'm
Yep.
trying to think of maybe the area that had the least amount of,
Yep.
Mark, if a lot of the developments went in downtown, is this with the intent that the state highway would still route through Main Street? Or
So
is
that
that
is,
a
the
discussion?
city is currently looking at what are opportunities for rerouting the truck route that goes through downtown, more the truck route even than necessarily the highway. But if you wanted to get that traffic out of the downtown and Main Street, because right now it goes up Main, it takes a left on High, or westbound on High. The city is currently evaluating not only for this, but in general, what are some opportunities for relocation of that? I don't know if Ray, you've been involved in any of those or not, but.
The initial meeting I was, yeah.
So it is something that's being evaluated in general by the city of what are some opportunities to get those trucks out of the downtown. And for example, Opera House Square has fully showing closure of that street. So that would have a obviously significant impact on traffic.
Any other questions?
Initial thoughts?
Exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's exciting when Mark goes back in history and shows, even back to 2010, when the Riverwalk was just starting to be installed, and see where we're at now, and just those areas that were touched on, the leach, for example, and so.
What was the T-wall?
I don't have that one in here. T-wall is this site. It's where if you know where West 9th was extended to meet back up
Yeah.
to Pioneer Drive, it's that area just south of there. Terrence Wall and Associates, it's a developer out of the Madison area. The city back in 2020 did an RFP through the Redevelopment Authority for redevelopment of that area. Terrence Wall Associates was the successful applicant through that. It's about 300 residential units, as well as a pool, a large green gathering space, about 20,000 square feet of commercial area. That project has been delayed with a lot of the changes in lending and the market, but it is slated to break ground here in September-ish for the first phase of that development.
Yeah, when you talk of the history, I came as a freshman here in 1986, and the river was not a cool place.
Mhm.
And it's just totally different now. It was all gravel parking and what was the concrete factory on the corner there by the mall, and it was just, now it's nice. It's a nice area.
Yeah.
So seeing other things like that to develop the city is exciting to see.
Yeah. So like the Marion Pearl Road area has taken about 25 years to transform what it was to what you see today. So when we do these type of plans, they are forward-looking, long-range, understanding. It takes a lot to make some of these things happen. You know, the great thing is Marion Pearl Road was a huge focal point for the city for the last 20 years. It's basically done, so now we have an opportunity to look at what's next. What is that focus for redevelopment areas that we want to see?
It's all exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing next steps.
All right, nothing else for Mark?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's exciting.
All right, next up, the 2023 Parks Department Impact Report presentation.
Oh, exciting.
So, every year, our department works together to put together a report of things that took place over the past year, kind of show different projects, whether it's in the parks or forestry, landscaping, the special events, senior center. We track a lot of key performance indicators for our strategic plan reporting. All of our divisions in the department rely a lot on donations, volunteers, obviously, for us to continue to function as we are. So we touch on some of that in here, but Ann Schaefer is our marketing and fund development coordinator, and Ann takes the lead on putting this information together. So she is here to present that tonight, and we'll be able to scroll through as she's doing that.
And once we share this with you guys, it'll go into a magazine format where people can flip the pages, and it'll be on the website along with all the other impact reports. So it's kind of fun to take a look back throughout the year and see the highlights of what happened. If you want to go to the next page, it was all about new buildings this year. It was wonderful that we could move into the new parks operations and administrative building. Huge highlight. Ray, I mean, this was a project you were behind for what, 10 years?
15.
Longer? Yeah, so I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be with all our teammates and we can communicate. I know we're a lot more efficient, so that was a huge project to close out. It's going to help us go into the future. So this just gives you an overview of what the mission is, and underway now is the new court plan, and a lot of what that plan will show for the future is preservation of the mission, to make sure the rec system and parks meet current residents and future generations' needs. I think Oshkosh is really lucky. We all feel that way, and we're dedicated to making the parks look fantastic. As Ray said, there are key performance indicators that we keep track of so that we can say, hey, we're going up, we're going down, this looks great. So we received 406 grants, donations totaling $307,000 and some change. Really, I don't think people appreciate how much revenue we generate to make things affordable and not be a burden on the tax levy. So this just gives you an idea of how we make that happen. There were 59 department-sponsored events, and 23,000 people attended those. A huge part of what we do cannot happen without volunteers. So if you guys know people that want to volunteer, have them come our way. We had 12,504 hours, and the value of that is $389,000, which is just huge. To give you an example, the senior center, we have no staff at our front desk. It's typically volunteers. So it helps us get by with less staff. We're going to highlight a lot of what Jenny brings as the Revenue Facilities Manager. The Pollock Community Water Park, we saw 38,000 visitors in 2023. And we gave out over $10,000 in scholarships to families in need, which is a partnership with the Community Foundation. So that's exciting. You can go to the next page. So if you go to the pool, you can attend special events. Aqua Fiesta, Pirate Ship Shakeup, Ducky Days, the list goes on. This Thursday, it's Christmas in July. But in order to run those events, we have to partner with people to help us pay for supplies, prizes, games, etc. So we have a large sponsor that helps with that. Winnebago Community Credit Union, so if you're ever around them, say thanks. And just gives you an example of some donations that are received for these special events. Onto the Leach. So the park programs the Leach Amphitheater for a few things, most notably the Tuesday night concert series. We also have family movie nights. New event is June dairy days, touch a truck, and then yoga at the Leach. We have over 6,200 people that attend those events, and we solicited $15,250 in sponsorships. So, Menominee Park Zoo, special events, attendance 14,943. There's a lot of sponsorships that go to pay for these special events: Breakfast in the Bunny, Bunny in the Barn, Snooze at the Zoo, Brews, Wildlife Wednesdays. The daily summer programs are really becoming popular. It's driving traffic down there, and I encourage you to follow our Facebook page so you can see the happy smiling faces that are going to the zoo to take advantage of some of the free education program. But the zoo, 90,000 for attendance, exciting, and that's without the bear. Hopefully post bear we'll be looking at maybe 110, 120. So the next is the Children's Amusement Center. There's several special events that happen there, and the train rides. There were 10,000 families, kids that take advantage of that. Children's Amusement Center also has the rentals for kayaks, etc. With Menominee Park closed, the main road, that's kind of disrupted some of this stuff, but I'm sure we'll be back on track. Then Chad's group is, I'm just going to highlight some of the strategic priorities, like the projects they've completed. Obviously, the Administration Ops Facility, Lakeshore Park, Four Seasons, Tech Miller and West Haven, pickleball courts, which is crazy popular sport right now. I don't think we can have enough courts. They did some parking and roadway reconstruction in Tech Miller. Menominee Park Zoo has fountains in the lagoon now. Chad worked with outside contractors, or did you do that internally? 800 feet of zoo paths were paved.
That was in partnership with the street department.
Yeah, very cool. Menominee Park Community Playground, the entrance has been refurbished. It kind of now looks like it all flows, where it looked a little disjointed before. Chief Oshkosh historical signs and rededication. I don't know if any of you had a chance to go to that program, but it was pretty interesting, and I really love the fact that people go out to that square and they go around and read those signs, so it's really cool. Roe Park Playground reconstruction, Lakeshore Park, the west parking lot. So if you're ever over by Two Brothers, there's a parking lot now on the west side, and the paths are all lit, so you can stop, park your car, take a hike from there, or enter that side of the park while you're biking, and that'll connect you all to the Riverwalk, the Wyowash, etc. So it's really getting used. Fugelberg Boat Launch Dock refurbishment. South Park Shelter 1 was painted, and the Pollock Community Water Park had the lazy river replastered. So they've been busy. And then we've got landscape operations. Travis applied and was awarded $25,000 for a DNR urban forestry grant. The foundation emphasized the need for trees for us this year, and they made us a campaign at the end of the year. So the trees we planted grew 127% since 2022. Yeah, and we're still catching up with the ash, but it'll happen. The other thing that his crew does is all those gorgeous decorative planters on Main Street. That's Travis. And then landscape ops. You could see how it beautifies the parks. It really makes a difference. And let's not forget about the Oshkosh Senior Center. They had a total attendance of 43,000, which is huge. 489 new participants. 57% of the reason people come to the center is for fitness. So that's exciting. 19% social programs, and attendance grew 15.3%. That is pretty astounding, but we were still climbing back up in 23 from the pandemic. We have a new senior services manager, Dan Brown. He came to us from the downtown YMCA. He's done a lot of older adult programming, so he's a great fit for the senior center. On to special events. It's been a busy year for Oshkosh. 71% of events saw an increase in attendance. Some of the highlights, there's new anti-vehicle barriers that can add an extra layer of safety to some of the big events. So parades, those are designed so that some big truck cannot wreak havoc. So there were 9 new events, including the return of the dragon boats. And that effort is underway as we speak. So you're going to see a lot of communication, encouraging people to get teams together. Oh, the Parks Advisory Board would make a great team, right? Just saying. Kathy dealt with 95 permitted events. And then we go on to my page. We got a grant from the Wisconsin Institute of Healthy Aging on falls prevention and screening. So we did a big program on that. That was a new source of funding for us. AT&T contributed $10,000 to help us close the digital divide and bring in some exciting speakers. And it's really having a profound effect on people. We were able to continue connect through tech. Bader gave us $29,000, and then the DNR urban forestry grant. The other thing is Network Health sponsored the senior center for $8,000. And you'll see they have signage up, and they partner with us on events. And truthfully, it's been great because we think they reach out to their clients, and it's increased participation. So that, my friends, is it. Anything you want to add, Ray?
No, I think you did a nice job on all that, Ann, and just I think it goes to show how busy the department is, not only with projects throughout, but the events, the facilities that we do operate, and just seeing that attendance, like Ann said, start to really come back from the pandemic. I think you saw the pool numbers were up considerably. The senior center's been up considerably. And the zoo is back up close to where it had been pre-pandemic as well, so.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to the corp.
Yes, so it, well, I should have mentioned this earlier, but there's a number of attachments that obviously were part of this packet. And if board members ever want a hard copy of this printed off, because some of them were 70-some pages, it's probably going to continue to be a larger agenda for the next couple of months till we get through the court process. But if you ever want a hard copy printed out, just send Erica an email. She can print it off, have it available for you at the office that you can just stop in and pick up. So don't expect you to print all that out at home. Just send her an email and she can coordinate with you on getting that picked up, whether it's you know, the impact report or the large corp document. So the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan update is the next item on the agenda. What we are going to be focusing on tonight are those park-specific improvements over the next 5 to 10 years, roughly. I did want to remind the board and the public that there are a number of mainly community parks that have their own master plans that aren't part of this corp, and those include Menominee Park, South Park, Rainbow Memorial Park, Rouge Park, the Menominee Park Zoo, and Lakeshore Park. All those documents are located on the park's website page, so you can take a look at those documents. But those are all in addition to the individual parks listed here in the corp. So we've been working with Rettler Corporation on some of these park-specific proposals. We have already started to work with them on some of the cost estimates for these proposals, and I expect that this will be coming back to you at your next meeting as a final draft that Rettler will present to you with any proposals for the parks as well as those costs. As I note in one section, as we're going through these individual parks, you'll notice that we do have some things in here such as ADA accessibility, and the city has, back in 2022, we did a self-assessment of all city buildings and facilities, which included all of our park sites. So we have been taking care of a lot of ADA plans and transitions for all of our facilities. So as we go through each of these plans, we'll talk about accessible routes, accessible walkways that are referenced in that document as well. And then there's also, will be reference made to some of the parking lots throughout the park system. And there's another document, the City of Oshkosh Assessment of Municipal Parking Lots, where that information is then coordinated through Jim Collins, our transit director, along with engineering staff and our department as those projects come forward. So as we talk about those two items throughout this document, those plans are out there as well. So what I wanted to do, and I'm not gonna take a lot of time on all these, but we'll go through each park site, kind of give you a running list of things that we currently have listed on improvements that we want to include in the corp update. And I'm gonna have, scroll through you. So we'll go through each one. Again, this is on the city website currently under the Parks Board for tonight. So Congress Avenue Tot Lot, a lot of these you're going to see we're talking about site lighting. What we're really talking about is replacing a lot of our old park lighting. Most of these parks have old light poles. We have been working with the city manager, city council, and our electric division to get LED lighting in our parks. So you're going to see in most of these parks we're going to talk about replacing some of the site lighting. That's making that improvement to LED. Also, you're going to see a lot of park identification signs. We currently have the in-house wood-made signs. We are currently looking at different designs that we can standardize our park identifications for each of the parks and be consistent, but not have those out of wood product or made in-house. Here at Congress Ave, the perimeter fencing needs to be replaced, so we'll have a cost for that. And then again, there's some, we'll put an allotment in for some additional benches around the playground site and so forth. Next one is Garden Club Park. This is a small park along Mason Street, 4th Ave area, and it's really just an open green space with a walking path going through it. Some newer trees that Travis and his team planted. There's some new benches. But here we're looking at, again, the site lighting, park identification sign, and some additional benches. 44th Parallel Park, the tennis court reconstruction project. That's something we have in the next couple of years to redo. And what we would be doing is adding some pickleball courts, getting rid of one of the tennis courts here to add more pickleball courts, accessible walkways, reconstructing the ball field, constructing a new open-air shelter. There is one out there, but it's really tucked back in the park and not very user-friendly. We'd look to maybe construct something up close to the playground. Park identification signs, site lighting, and additional benches. And as we're going through here, if there's anything that you're familiar with at any of these parks and want to question.
Is that ball diamond used a lot?
It's scheduled a lot, yes, from that during the weekdays, but then also this year the playground is gonna be reconstructed and resurfacing, as you know, this year in our improvement plans, so.
What are you all doing with the ballpark? And you're right, it does get used a lot. A lot of local kids are practicing there and with the parents and stuff, but.
I think the concept will be pretty similar to other neighborhood parks for doing, I don't think there'll ever be a outfield fence per se, cause of the terrain that goes down. I think we gotta look at the setbacks of this off the road and the safety zones for the field itself to know how it can fit. It'd probably be set up more, I'd like to see more from the standpoint of like a Bauman Park, because the distance is so long. I could see younger kids from the 5 to 8U playing there, doing their types of programs very much probably in the long run when it comes to scheduling.
So new backstop, new sideline fencing, probably down to the base paths.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the parks are redone like this, do you guys ever do ribbon cuttings for them?
It depends on the project, and probably don't do enough of celebrating of those.
I
So
was just trying to think like that, just that one park, seems like there's gonna be a lot done to it, that maybe that could be something
yep.
beneficial to let the city know. Obviously, people who live in the surrounding areas are gonna know what's happening, but just something.
Are you doing them all at different times? The projects are kind of spread out after, it's not like a final timeline kind of thing, right? It's like you hit this one, then we're gonna hit this one, then we're gonna hit that
Yeah,
one.
the playground will be done this fall. The tennis courts are in either next year or in 2026 in the CIP. And then the ball diamond, same type of thing. It's within the next 3 years in the CIP. So, but I still think we could do something nice on some of these projects.
Yeah, and maybe it
And-
doesn't have to be to the extent of a ribbon cutting, but maybe just updated pictures and a Facebook post and
Yep.
whatever.
And that's something that we've talked about with Ann, is maybe starting a quarterly
wrote
news,
it down.
a quarterly newsletter possibly on some of the projects, and just getting more people to visit our Facebook page. So.
Yeah, pictures of Chad cutting ribbons after he finishes the project.
So is there room to, like, how often are those tennis courts used? Like, is there room to add a tennis court, a
Chad?
pickleball
Well,
court instead?
the footprint will be pretty similar. I think if they add, similar to like Tech Miller or West Haven, how we just kept one tennis ball and added 2 pickleballs to 1 court to deal with.
Okay.
So that's how the concept will more than likely be. And another reason is, field dimensions are needed for different things to work with athletic fields, and that seems like a lot of space here, but it's not much.
Okay.
So to work with, so expanding, and then the terrain off of this park, for example, goes downhill considerably in that end. And I know our engineering and public works is also considering how we can work with some drainage stuff all down in this part of the swale to not impose on the neighbors there too, with existing stormwater management plans they have through there. So
tennis courts will remain, or tennis court along with the pickleball. So next one is Abbey Park. This one playground improvements, which would be new equipment and poured in place rubber surfacing. Again, accessible walks, park identification sign,
Looks like there's.
new site lighting and benches.
Yeah.
There is stuff there.
Yeah.
There's stuff there.
There it is.
Yeah,
Look like
the,
there's
the
nothing.
playground is actually over here. It's tucked off here right off West Haven Drive, and that's really the only, physical amenity there, and a small shelter, 2-table picnic shelter, and a park sign right now. But if you ever walk back there, especially along the creek area, you'll notice there are a lot of paths back here. People walk all over back in here, and it's, pretty well used for a nature area, so that's one nice thing from that end.
And there's, part of it is north of West Haven too?
That is correct, and that's undeveloped, you know, from that perspective, but it is considered, city parkland, correct.
Next one is Abe Rochland Park. This one includes, again, the playground improvements, new equipment and rubber surfacing, accessible walks, park ID sign. We'll have some allowance in here for some shoreline restoration because there's quite a bit of fishing, and if we can try to stop some of the shoreline from eroding. Benches, parking lot improvements, and then site lighting. Next one is Bauman Park. This one is, the playground improvements would be doing the rubber surfacing. A couple years ago, we did put new equipment in there, but we held off on the rubber surfacing, but we would like to get that accomplished. Accessible walkways, park identification sign, site lighting. There is a small open-air shelter out there that we need to do some renovating and updating on. Again, maybe looking at some shoreline restoration allowance, as well as some benches. Next one is Fugelberg Park. Basketball reconstruction, basketball court reconstruction, including some new backboards, accessible walks, park ID sign, benches, site lighting, and then we need to start looking at, there's a perimeter fence really that runs along South Main Street, replacing that perimeter fence with something new and updated.
It's
Next.
nice to see those basketball courts getting used too.
Yeah, that one is pretty well used down there.
Yeah, it's getting, every time I drive by, I'm like, great to see kids out there playing basketball.
Next one is Mary Jewel Park. This one would be a ball field reconstruction, one that we would look at adding outfield fence for this field, accessible walks, park ID sign, site lighting, benches. The building that's currently out there, the pump station, we do have the restrooms that were added on a number of years ago, a couple years ago, so we do have restrooms out there currently as well.
And there's also part of Mary Jewel, there's, part of the overhang is a shelter there too, next to the restrooms, so that's kind of, that is part of the park. I think we have 2 or 3 tables underneath there right now.
The next one is what we're just basically calling Parkside A right now until we have it named, and this is a site that's out on off of Ripple Avenue. What we're looking to do in the next year or two, I believe, we have it slated to do a master plan for that site. It's about a 3.5 acre park site that was dedicated as part of that multifamily subdivision that was developed out there. And then the next one will be Pickard Park. We're currently developing a master plan with the neighbors out there. So we basically will reference that master plan as we start to do those improvements. We're working on that currently, and I would expect that maybe later this year, but most likely into 2025, we'll start to see more development taking place as part of that master plan. We do have capital improvement dollars budgeted for that this year. Next one is Quarry Park, and this is one where we recently met with the neighborhood association, and they've requested possibly looking at having a park master plan developed for the site. This is a site that's got many restrictions on it because of the past use, the quarry, and landfill out in that area, so it's very limited what we would be able to do as far as excavating, but I think there's some creative things we could do on the surface, and I think the neighborhood's interested in having some of that discussion to see what we could possibly come up with. So we're gonna recommend to have a park master plan done here so we can get some more feedback from the neighborhood as well as our consultants that have worked on this site for a number of years. Rowe Park, this is the downtown site adjacent to the YMCA. So looking at a park identification sign, excuse me, site lighting, benches, but again, as part of the plan that Mr. Lyons presented earlier this year, trying to look at maybe adding some additional green space as part of some of those plans that take place outside of our corp as well. Next one is Stevens Park. This one, the tennis courts are due for reconstruction. Basketball court, same thing. This playground, the improvements need to be done, new equipment and rubberized surfacing, site lighting, accessible walks, park identification sign. This one we've done a number of improvements over the last couple of years, including the ball diamond, the shelter, restroom facility, and the tennis court was done actually probably 12, 15 years ago, Chad-ish.
Yeah, 12.
So they're due for another renovation. Next one is Stegbauer Park. Accessible walks. This is one where we need to really start considering getting a restroom shelter building constructed. The ball diamond there is heavily used, the play equipment is heavily used, the basketball court, and we do occasionally have a portable toilet out there, which gets vandalized quite often, and then also the park users are going across the street to a neighboring business, and we do get complaints at times of individuals going in there to use the restroom. So we have put in our 5-year CIP, and the board knows this, but to start looking at getting a restroom construction out there. Site lighting, park identification sign, benches, and then an overlay on the basketball court. That's just a half court out there. Next one, Tech Miller Park. Playground improvements would be getting the rubberized surfacing in there. That equipment we replaced, I want to say about 8 to 10 years ago roughly, so we're still good on the equipment. Basketball court reconstruction, accessible walks, park ID sign, site lighting, and benches. We just last year redid the tennis and added pickleball courts out there. The ball field we reconstructed a few years ago. The restroom was renovated, and that cul-de-sac parking area was reconstructed this year. So been some good improvements that have made out at Tech Miller Park within the last couple of years. Next one is West Algoma Park. This is accessible walks, playground improvements, including equipment and the rubber surfacing. There's a small open shelter out there. We need to do a roof replacement and probably have to do some painting and staining. Site lighting, benches, park identification sign, and then again some shoreline restoration allowance to try to minimize some of the erosion taking place on the shoreline.
So the shoreline restoration and all of these, just putting the rocks down?
Riprap? Yes, correct. And that's a pretty expensive undertaking, but I think it's something we have to look at on some of these parks where the erosion continues to take place.
And so is it true you can't use concrete, broken up concrete now for riprap?
Yeah, there's a DNR permitting process we'd have to go through where they help us and they spec out what is acceptable, so. Next one, West Haven Circle Park. This is one where it's been in our corp for a number of years, possibly looking at adding a splash pad out on the west side of the city, accessible walks, site lighting, park ID sign, benches. Ball field improvements we put in here just because we're talking anywhere from 5 to 15 years out. We did redo that ball diamond, but by the time 10 or 15 years comes, it's probably going to need it again. And then the basketball court resurfacing. This one we had a lot of the new improvements. We did, as I said, the ball diamond not too long ago. We put new equipment here, updated the restrooms, We did the tennis court reconstruction and added pickleball there. So again, some good improvements have been made out at West Haven as well. Next one is Lakeshore Park, and this is one where we simply say that just to refer to the Lakeshore Park Master Plan, continue to implement those improvements. Next one, Menominee Park, similar. We do have a master plan, so continue to implement the improvements per that plan. Same with Rainbow Memorial Park. And if you
With the Menominee Park, and I know it's an odd year, but with all the rain, you know, that whole Menominee Drive area is underwater basically. So is there any plan to put in fill or dirt to raise it at all?
I don't think it's as easy as raising the site without having some better drainage, which is difficult there because the lake level's so high. So it's primarily what's sitting there now is groundwater that can't go anywhere because the water in the lake is so high. And we found that if we were just to fill that in, the water still has to go somewhere. So when we redid the trail up there, we did put some drain tile at least along the trail, and then we connected that to a storm sewer so that it wouldn't just flood over the trail again. And this whole park basically is fill. It's fill from many years ago. And so it's not just as easy as going out there trucking topsoil in.
Okay.
Because it really has to do with the lake level. And so some of the storm sewers that are out there, if the lake's so high, the water, it sometimes surges back into the park because the water level's so high. So it's not a very easy solution, and we get that it's wet, but unfortunately, there's not an easy solution to it. You have anything else?
No.
So I hear you, Becky, but yeah, unfortunately, it's got a lot of factors in play out there. Next one, Red Arrow Park. Oh, Rainbow. Yep. So Rainbow's got its own master plan, so we'll continue to implement that. Red Arrow Park is one that you're probably familiar with, being on an old landfill site. So even though we have in here playground improvements, replace the equipment and put rubberized surfacing, we're gonna have to have some serious discussions before we do anything major out there, just because we are very limited on how much excavation we should be doing out there because of all the landfill issues. We do have some skate park restoration in our CIP that we'd like to take a look at. Park identification sign, site lighting, benches, and then we have in here parking lot improvements, and that parking lot is in horrible condition, but just some of the cost estimates to simply get the existing parking lot removed because of the landfill in that area. It's very expensive. So we need to start having some serious discussions on how we're gonna handle this park. We are seeing a lot of sinking, whether it's the fence for the ball diamonds, the light poles that are out there, and that's just part of, again, being on an old landfill. So.
Just for reference on the plan here, just so you understand where the troughs were for the landfill. They basically start from here and go down to about this far, and there's 4 of them. And they end, that's a little bit, they end just, I can't get this to work here. They end just before the edge of this parking lot done. So this is where all the ground settling is, through all the fields and different things. So it's a very unique area to work with in your active zone. So that's a big discussion going forward for future development there.
Next one should be South Park. And again, South Park has its own master plan, but there have been a number of improvements that have taken place here, including all the lagoon work, the accessible playground, the replacement of the other playground. One item that, if you recall back to our CIP discussion last meeting, we do need to look at updating that splash pad out there. It's so heavily used, and something that we need to have it reconstructed. Parking lot was recently redone. tennis and pickleball were recently updated, so.
I used that splash pad when I was young, and it was just concrete with water spurting
Yeah. I won't ask how many years ago that was,
up.
Bailey.
Yeah, no, don't.
Next one is 24th Avenue boat launch, park ID sign, site lighting, accessible walks, parking lot improvements. The little park site, Al Brullier Memorial Garden, which is right next to the Main Street Bridge. That Riverwalk has been constructed there, so basically getting a small park identification sign reinstalled there. Boatworks, which is at the end of Michigan Street, get a park ID sign, benches, and then eventually some parking lot improvements will need to take place there as well.
If you haven't been down there, it's neat to see the site now with the old sanitation building gone. It's very open, it looks very inviting down there now, yeah.
Next one is Bowen Street Fishing Dock. We did, a couple of years ago, work with Otter Street Fishing Club on putting composite decking on. We do need to go back in there. We did not put new railings on, but replace the railings and get a park identification sign out there. Carl Steiger Park, which is adjacent to UW Oshkosh on, by Wisconsin Street. Again, accessible walks, park ID signs, site lighting, benches. Next one is Fugelberg Boat Launch. This one, there's been discussion many years on that causeway that goes out.
Here, there's one up here.
And basically looking at getting rid of the existing causeway and putting it further out in the lake so that larger boats are able to launch there. That would be a rather large expense that we would need to look at some grants and some partnerships on. So the causeway improvements, there's also been some discussions about getting a second boat launch constructed in that area, so we're gonna include that. Site lighting, park identification sign, and then parking lot improvements eventually. Michigan Street Fishing Dock, this is right adjacent to the Boatworks site. We will have to put in here some, it's not gonna be maybe CIP related, but more operating budget, to start taking a look at the railings on there and some improvements, but also adding some, potentially some benches out there. Mill Street Boat Launch, replaced some of the decking using composite decking, some improvements to the boat launch concrete, as well as a park ID sign. Riverside Park, which is by the Leach and the Convention Center, park identification sign, maybe some additional benches. The lighting there is all part of the Riverwalk system, so that's already been upgraded. Then we've got William Steiger Park, which is adjacent to the senior center. Park identification sign, site lighting, benches, and then the fishing dock behind the senior center. We need to replace and do some better decking on that fishing pier as well as the railing. We make general note in here about the Fox River, the Riverwalk. Continue to implement those projects as we can per the Fox River Corridor Riverwalk. And that was it. So again, I know it's a lot of information. This is still, you know, if you've got something as you're out and about, if you've got ideas that you think should be considered, let us know. I expect that we'll continue to work with Rettler, and at the next meeting, like I said, we'll bring back what I'm hoping will be one of the final drafts, which will include the entire booklet, along with some potential cost estimates as well, so.
So, do you guys, a lot of these, like Stevens Park, they have Stevens Park, Neighborhood Association. Do you work with them, like, would they paint whatever needs to be painted in that park, or is that not allowed? Does it have to be done by a city person?
No, depending what the project is, we do and have worked with some of the neighborhood groups on that. And it's not just the neighborhood groups, but there's other volunteer groups that might come forward looking for projects.
Okay.
That's something that I think we've been doing a little bit more of with our, Kathy Snell is our special event coordination, not special event coordination, but also our volunteer coordination. And so as those come up, between Chad, Travis, Kathy and I will sit down and talk about some of those ideas. It really comes down to what type of project it is, but a painting or staining type project is something we've talked about with other groups as well. So if it's, whether it's a Rotary group, a
Yeah.
fishing club group, if they come forward and have some ideas and we can help coordinate stuff like that, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, yes.
But again, if there's any of these printouts or if there's anything that you want hard copies of, let us know and we can definitely get you those.
Well, thank you for that, Ray. Now you can give your director update.
Yep, I'm gonna keep this one brief. Update on Pratt Trail reconstruction. Hopefully everybody knows we did get the roadway open prior to July 4th. We were able to work with the contractor to come in and get it completed earlier than the second week of August is what we had originally been told is what they were able to do for us. They were able to shift around some other jobs and help us get it completely done and open by July 4th, which was very much appreciated by us as well as the public. So if you haven't been out there, I think it's really been a nice improvement. And again, it's been a long time coming, so we're happy that's done. Pickard Park, as I mentioned a little bit, we've been working with the Neighborhood Association on a master plan for that site. We did meet with the neighborhood group, took some input, allowed them to give us some additional input after the meeting on amenities that they would like to see. Rettler Corporation did get me a couple drafts of some site plans that I am currently reviewing with them, and I expect we'll get the neighborhood group back together very soon and talk about what they would like to see in that final document, and then that eventually will come to this board. So that is it for me.
Thank you. All right, Chad.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to segue from the impact report to things that are happening around Pratt Trail, Menominee Park. The zoo is doing extremely well this year, and I want to say, a big hat off to our entire team working down there because they're going through constant transition with people, with programs. The new improvements that we ended up adding another 700 feet of asphalt paths to hopefully get that zoo connected. Just very nice seeing the people traverse through the zoo with strollers, with space, not having implications with doing that. Also just the addition to all of our programs that are taking place, from the Wild Wednesdays to daily programs that are have just been astounding down there. So if you're out there and want to participate in zoo events, please look at our social media sites for the Oshkosh Parks or the Menominee Park Zoo, and we always have a weekly schedule of what's going on, and hopefully more people come down there and enjoy what we have. And hopefully soon I'll be giving more reports on new additions for some of our exhibits coming up here from that nature. So but with the bear exhibit down there too, and fox exhibit, things are coming along very well. Travis's team and our teams work together very well on the rest of the landscape plan. We do have some final touches we're working on, and seeing things green up and be lush down there has been very exciting. And if you can walk into the zoo and so you come up to the approach of the exhibit and visualize how it can be in 5-10 years when things develop, I think we're all very excited about that and what can happen, especially seeing the species in there when we get those placed here in the near future. So, but yeah, come on down to the zoo and check that out. I think second, I just wanted to note that people with our other programs, with our Brews on the Bay program not being at Menominee Park, we relocated to Rainbow Park this year due to the fact just with the road traffic going on, as we stated before. But we did some improvements around the old hockey rink at Rainbow. Ended up being a very nice site to host the events, and we've seen good attendance there so far. But we removed all the old batter post bang boards for the hockey rink and restored, so it's a little safer, aesthetically pleasing, but hopefully make the concrete pad out there more accessible and useful for other events going forward here in the future right now. So, and we do have another Brews on the Bay event next week, Wednesday. So hopefully people will come down and enjoy that one too. So that's all I have today.
Thank you, Chad. Travis.
All right. I just have a couple of updates. One, we have started treating our ash trees around the city, the ones that we have been treating and are still in good condition. So There's probably about 130-ish that we have on our list. So far we got through probably about 40 of them. So we're gonna continue to do that.
Can you just share a little bit, Travis, where are they located, in parks, terrace areas?
There's a little bit of both. So the main ones, or the main areas are Farmington, on Wheatfield Way. There's going to be a scattering throughout Menominee Park, some of the larger ones, West Haven Drive, and then just a handful of other random ones throughout the city that we found. We are also going to do our terrace tree planting program. We're kind of revamping it a little bit. So what I'd like to do is, if you're interested in getting a terrace tree planted in front of your property, what you can do is email me with the subject line terrace tree planting, and that's pretty much it. Make sure that you have your name and your address on there, and provided there's funding and you have a decent site, so there's no so there's room in between the underground utilities. There's 10 feet from driveways and a few other parameters. As long as you have a decent site, we will plant a tree in the terrace there at the next available site, or next available planting, be it spring or this fall. Another fun little update is, so we're going to be redoing the Highway 44 islands. Well, the one to the east of the 41-44 interchange. That will be starting tomorrow. We're going to be putting 3 80-foot long beds in there. The center one will have a parking pad for our workers so that they can drive in, get out of traffic. That way they don't have to cross any of the lanes, try and haul big bags of debris and what have you across the street. There's also going to be 27 smaller stature trees being put in throughout the whole thing, throughout the middle. On the other side of Kohler, or on the east side of Kohler, there is that smaller dividing island that we just put in 8 witch hazel. So now between the 41 interchange and 20th, both of those islands will have some form of vegetation, be greened up a little bit, make it look a little nicer. And then with that, there will be some lane closures. So on southbound 44, heading south, the closest lane to the island is going to be closed pretty much from 7 to 5, starting tomorrow, through the week.
Not during EAA.
No. This whole project should be done within the week, possibly starting next week, depending on rain delays and what the weather does. But they're hoping to have it done within a week. So, and that's just the one lane, and they'll still be able to get through normal traffic flow for the most part. And then one little note that I didn't have on here that I'd like to update is, so this past summer, I was working with the Oshkosh North Communities class on becoming a tree campus. I got an email stating that they have achieved that, so
Nice.
Oshkosh North is now a tree campus, USA, K through 12.
Nice.
So,
Perfect.
Of course, the best school.
but yeah, that's all I got,
Thank you.
unless anybody has questions.
So any questions, comments? All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
You can just do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you all August 12th.